YouTube, it has been way too long since I've last chatted with you guys. And for that, I'm sorry. I apologize, and I'll do my very best to make sure that that does not happen again. I barely made any track videos, not nearly as many as I would have liked to this summer, because a few personal things came up where I just did not find the time or energy to devote to YouTube. But I'm going to work harder on that as we go. And before we get too sidetracked, let's get right into today's topic. So, as you can tell by the title, we got another Borlée Bros video, baby. Because, well, let me just say, when I woke up this morning, I was not expecting to be in the mood to make a YouTube video. But when I opened Instagram and saw their video, the Borlée Brothers video, I knew that I wouldn't have a choice, because those two, if you guys haven't seen my last video on them, are some of my favorite athletes across the board, mostly as a relay 4x4 fanatic that I am, but they're just such inspiring athletes in my opinion because of how tenacious they've been through the years. They've been through so much. And if you guys haven't seen their video, go ahead and head over to Instagram. Their Instagrams are J Borlée for Jonathan and Kev Borlée for Kevin. But basically, the video was, in essence, a joint announcement that they are going to stick it out until Paris 2024, which I have to applaud them for, whether or not they managed to get what they ultimately want, and that is an Olympic medal. That's been their Olympic dream since day one. And let's not forget that they have been competing on the athletic scene since the late 2000s, back when they were collegians at Florida State University, winning NCAA titles for the Seminoles, and just starting out as representatives of their country, Belgium, which I will tell you firsthand from speaking to someone who was Belgian this summer. I'll get to that in a little bit. But they are heroes in their country, regardless of what they may or may not do in these next couple of years. What they have done for the sport of track and field in that country has been absolutely revolutionary. Now, to my personal anecdote, what I was referring to when I said personal news that came up, kind of distracting me from my YouTube channel this summer. So most of you probably know that I'm a trumpeter, and what happened basically is me and my dad got a little joint bugling duo at the Saratoga Springs race course, the historic horse track that is usually open for 40 days in the summer. And we got the gig to play the call to the post before every race. And I was there on a solo day once, and I was just walking around trying to make my rounds. You know, that's where you get to play songs for the common folk. And I ran into a guy that just so happened to be Belgian. And we were just getting in deep conversation. And because I mentioned how I'm a big fan of track, the Borlée brothers came up, and he said, "Oh, Jonathan, Kevin, et Dylan." Jonathan, Kevin, and Dylan. Because those guys are basically celebrities over in Europe and on their home front. I mean, again, they're not nearly well known enough to my liking over here in the United States, because, of course, being Americans, our media coverage is naturally going to prioritize our athletes. But a story like this is almost unmissable when you have two twins competing at the highest level for their country, and they've been doing it for longer than many athletes can say that they have in their careers. I made a video about Allison Felix earlier this year before she announced her inevitable retirement at the end of this year at the age of 35. They're 34 right now, and they're going to be 36 by the time Paris rolls around. So the longevity is serious when you talk about guys like that. It's almost a parallel to Isaac McQualla, another guy who deserves tremendous respect for his never say die attitude, if you want to call it that, because I think he's 36 right now, and he's shown no signs of wanting to give up. He's still running in the low 45s, and he's still their consistent starter over in Botswana for their 4x4 relay team. And they've been very competitive over the past few years, largely in part because of him, not just because of his performances, but because of his leadership. Because again, Jonathan and Kevin Borlée, they usually lead their team practices whenever they get together with the Belgian, well, they call them the Belgian Tornadoes, their men's 4x4 sprinting team, because they've got a whole pool of athletes, and on their women's side, it's the Cheetahs, but I digress. Either way, they're going to be integral parts of what Belgium is to have on the athletics front, even after they're gone, because they've got a number of up-and-coming athletes that are going to play crucial roles in their 4x4s in these next couple championships as well, because if they can get back to the form that they ultimately want to, which is sub 45, in fact, their coach and father, Jacques Borlée, said that he hopes to get his two sons, Jonathan and Kevin, below that mark once again. Through all the hammy injuries that they've encountered over the years, it would be just a huge, huge, huge milestone for them to get back there. But I think it's ultimately going to be about who they deploy as their fourth runner. If they can get 3 Borlées and one other guy that can just really round out that lineup. We've seen them roll with Alexander Doom, Julian Watrin, Jonathan Secor, who had a bit of an off year this year. But you never know. He's still young. He could get back into it. And, of course, Watrin had his best season last year, and Doom, you could very well argue that as well. But ultimately, it's going to take a lot of dedication, a lot of focus, because, again, the injury bug is not exactly something that you can call avoidable in track and field, because you see professional athletes who go through the most disciplined training regimens still encounter injuries, repeat injuries. Jonathan Borlée is probably the most shining example of that, because his hamstring has basically prevented him from running an individual 400 for a 3-year stretch of his career from 2019 to this year in 2022. And even after that, he still re-aggravated it. Kevin himself injured his hamstring towards the end of the season, and it also held him a little bit back in the the Olympics last year in Tokyo. But either way, they still managed to come away with a relay medal this year. So it's nice to see that they're still finding ways to get success. And on the European circuit, they managed to get a silver in the 4x4, despite Kevin, that's when he injured his hamstring in the prelims of that meet. And he came back just 5 days later to participate in the relay with a band on his hammy, and he still managed to run a sub 45 leg. That is just so applaudable, regardless of whether or not it produces the ideal result, because of course their dream isn't just to come in third or second. They want to get the Olympic gold, just like the Americans and every other country does. But really, what it comes down to is just making the most of what they have left. And like I said, it's going to take a lot of concentration, a lot of very strict, programming, scheduling, and they may have to race sparingly or strategically, depending on their form. Of course, peaking is another essential when it comes to track and field in any given season. But we'll see how they do. I definitely felt good to ramble about track again for the first time in a while. But let me know what you guys think down below. If we got any audience members from Belgium, I happily invite you to the comments section. If you guys want to know more about the Borlée brothers, I hope this video provided you a little nice primer on them. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And I will definitely, before the end of the year, I want to make a top 10 moments in track and field video of 2022 as a good way to kind of make up for lost time while I've been off and away from YouTube. But again, hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like below and subscribe for more. Peace.